Howdy. So, before I get into anything in my video, I wanted to have a question to you, the viewer, whoever you are. You don't have to comment anything. I just want you to sit down for a second and think about the stuff that you've gotten done over the past couple of weeks in whatever your hobby may be. And if you feel like you haven't gotten enough done, even if that is, you feel like you haven't gotten anything done, remember that it all takes just a little bit of time, overtime, to make something happen. This progress here took me an entire weekend, one weekend in the course of 2 weeks, and still, it's progress. I also did some other light bits of work, but I'll show that further on in the video. Now, for what all I've gotten done these past couple of weeks is, the big thing that I did is actually pretty small. I put together most of a Rubicon, let me get the exact name they give it, Willys MB, or 156 scale, quarter-ton 4x4 utility truck. The Jeep. What took me so dang long isn't because the kit is terribly complicated. It's actually, I think, usually pretty straightforward. I will say I would have enjoyed the instructions having notes on, don't worry about these parts, they aren't used in this kit. And I think there are some places where some minor things could have been done better in the model itself, as well as some notes on what you need to not put in place if you want to be able to put something else there. A quick example of that last part is that you cannot have either of these two rear passengers if you have this rear seat in the back of the Jeep. There's just not room for either of them to really sit there. That's kind of disappointing. So I was actually rather fortunate that the plastic glue I had found last time at the local superstore, which is probably an oxymoron, but that said, it was good for ABS plastics. No, it's not. There are still things on this model that are really held together more by a gel than an actual cement. But I did get around to using the extra thin super glue that I bought while I was at a hobby superstore. And so this stuff was frustrating to work with, although I think it was better than the super glue gels, just because I tend to want nice close fits and I frequently overfill the cavities I'm going to put together. I did consider using different helmets from other kits for these gentlemen, but then I thought I just wanted to keep it as true to the Rubicon kit as possible. I may explore something else later. But the most time was just spent figuring out how to make this as interchangeable as possible for what I am trying to accomplish. And I'm presently being reminded of the fact that I live very close to a fire station and police station, and so I hope that the alarms are not showing up in the audio here. But anyways, that's actually getting frighteningly close to me. Anyways, so of course there were the crew. The crew really only have one extra arm option, one extra head option. Then there was also some big stuff in the weapons. There's one on the far left I'm not really sure I'm going to use because I can't find anything about it being intended to be used with the kit and how often the US put machine guns in that configuration, so not terribly passionate about it. But then there was the surprisingly complicated issue of the armor on the Jeep, which the main piece of armor is actually pretty easy to put on and take off. It doesn't even need any kind of magnetization. But to make it complete, there needs to be an armor plate in the very front, which is exceptionally fiddly without any kind of magnetization. The bench in the very back of the Jeep is something else I want to be able to keep or to take out as I use passengers or not. There's also the covered and uncovered windscreens. I did decide not to include the spare tire just to give some difference to this Jeep from the other ones that the other Jeep that I have. I want to get a third one, but I'll go into that a little bit more later. Also, the canopies. The canopy actually has 3 different configurations. There is completely down, which has a loose ring around the bed of the Jeep. There is what I would call the partial canopy, which just has the rods on the side, and what I call the full canopy, which has the side curtains down as well. I kind of sort of want to be able to put all of these on there, and that's going to be very difficult. And as difficult as that be, that's going to be design considerations kind of difficult. The weapons themselves will require 2mm diameter magnets, which I have found exactly one provider of, and I'm going to be ordering soon. But it's kind of wild to me that I'm trying to use the smallest magnets that I can find as just a regular consumer, so that I can magnetize this without making it look absolutely terribly, horribly silly. But it will give me a lot of options. There's a lot of ways I can make this visually interesting, I think. And it is part of an overall plan for something I was talking about. So the concept of operations is that I'm going to a scale modeling show in mid to late January. And I want to have 3 sets of models that I bring there: an M32 armored recovery vehicle, a trio of Jeeps, and a mine roller tank. The M32 armored recovery vehicle, I already have the Model 4 from Rubicon Models. The Jeeps, I have 1 Jeep from Rubicon Models, 1 Jeep from Perry Miniatures, and I want to get one from Warlord Games to have basically a scale comparison diorama. And then the mine roller I would need to get from Trenchworks, which it's a bit expensive for what I'm doing with it, which is basically turning it into a disabled tank that needs to be recovered. So that one is my last priority, because I have to buy it and then spend time on something that's not going to be as interesting for people. If I can get that and integrate it with the armored recovery vehicle diorama, have them side by side, that would be outstanding. I would be absolutely delighted, but I don't think that's going to be very practical. So, the M32 and the mine roller are meant to connect to a story that I read in some historical documents from the museum that I worked at for a time. And I still need to talk with the curator of that museum, make sure I can talk about that, the details of that in a YouTube video or anything. But then I want to present this at that museum to increase people's awareness of some vehicles that aren't really cared about as much in a historical sense. I mean, the M32 armored recovery vehicle isn't something you see in any movies, really. People don't talk about it. But the man whose notes I read absolutely loved that vehicle and was really proud of what he and his crew were able to accomplish. And I want to share some of that written experience and the pride in what they were able to do, even if it's not the stuff that Hollywood really cares about. So, with the M32 and the mine roller, the story of this man is my primary goal. Historical accuracy then follows that. It's going to be difficult because there's not a lot of photos of these vehicles, and it's hard to find documentation on how they were used. Just finding that for the most common weapons of the war is difficult in the first place. And then I want to care about the skill I have in painting, modeling, painting, setting up a diorama, which I've never done before, The Jeeps, which are a lot more achievable than the mine roller, are my second priority. And those, it's rather flipped. I want my skill in making and painting models as primary, then the ease in making a diorama, just something quick and dirty, like just a dirt road with some grass on the sides. That's pretty much the goal. And then I want to look at the scale, the different styles of these Jeeps. So I want to use the same pieces. I want to use pieces inside the kit only for what goes on the kit. Not any kit bashing there. I'm going to have 8 weeks to accomplish this, so it's going to be a pretty tight turnaround, because though I have part of January theoretically, practically speaking, I already know I'm going to get nothing hobby related done during January. I'm going to be quite busy, let's say. So I've got quite a lot to do. I hope by the next time that I have a hobby video, I will be able to present to any viewers of this vlog the plan and what I have built in the sets I'm going to be working on. Maybe I will also have some things on order and incoming. But that's pretty much the deal as it stands. I want to thank you for taking time out of your day to watch this little video, and I pray that things are going well for you wherever you are, and want you to stay motivated. Know that if there's anything you're still trying to do, all it takes is a little bit at a time. Personally, I find having specific goals helps me a lot in accomplishing anything in the first place. So take it one piece at a time, stay cool, stay motivated, and stay safe. Have a good one, y'all.